Hello, my friends. It is time for another quiz, and welcome to the Intentional Cannabis Consumer Archetype quiz. Now, like up front, we're just going to say that this is not a hyper-scientific, peer-reviewed psychological instrument. Okay, it's not it's not what it is. But it is based on the patterns that I've seen over years of working with people who use cannabis intentionally, and the very real archetypes that often show up when you start paying attention to how and why you reach for this plant. So this quiz is meant to be fun and reflective and maybe a little bit revealing, right? You also might see parts of yourself in more than one archetype, and that's actually the point, right? When you take these personality quizzes, a lot of times they try to put you're this bucket, or you're this bucket, or you're this bucket. And most of us are a blend of several buckets, and we shift, just like our cannabis use shifts depending on the season or the situation or what's happening inside our bodies and lives at that time. So think of this as more of a playful way to explore your relationship with cannabis and get a clearer sense of the patterns that guide your choices. Now, there are 10 questions in the quiz, and at the end of the quiz, I'm going to walk you through all 6 archetypes, including their strengths, their shadows, and some tips and strategies for using cannabis more intentionally based on the way that you tend to move throughout the world. So grab a pen or open your notes app, and let's figure out which archetype or archetypes you resonate with the most. So here's how it works. You're going to answer 10 questions, and each question has 6 options, A through F. All right? So each letter lines up with one archetype. Now, all you have to do is write down the letter you choose for each question. If you're really torn between 2, then write down 2 letters. Okay? That's fine. And then at the end, you're going to count up how many A's, B's, C's, D's, E's, and F's you have. And your top letter is going to be your main archetype. Now, if your scoring is close and you end up with 2 or 3 letters that are tied or really close, like I said, that's not a mistake. It just means that you express more than one pattern in your cannabis use, which is totally normal. And then after you've tallied up your letters, you can skip right to the chapter at the end for your top archetype. Or, check out the top 2 or 3 if the results are tight. But use the chapter features to get to where you're looking to go. Now, each archetype chapter is going to include key characteristics of that archetype, the shadow side that you're going to want to stay aware of, and some quick actionable tips to help you use cannabis more intentionally based on your style. Right? So this quiz it's designed to help you understand not just what kind of consumer you are, but why you're consuming weed. And then once you know that, you can make choices that actually support your life and your body and the experience that you're trying to build. All right? So, ready? Let's find your archetype. Question number 1. What is the primary reason you tend to reach for cannabis? A, to ease discomfort or calm my system. B, smooth transitions and stay balanced. C, access intuition, meaning, or spiritual depth. D, to spark ideas or enter creative flow. E, to feel closer to people or deepen connection. Or F, to explore new sensations or altered states. Question 2. What does your ideal cannabis session look like? A, it's cozy, quiet, low stimulation, focused on soothing. B, it's a predictable environment, same setup each time. C, we've got dim lights, ritual objects, or a sensory atmosphere. D, tools out, journal, laptop, art supplies, whatever tools are for you. E, there's friends, there's warmth, there's conversation, there's shared energy. Or F, outdoors, music, movement, or a novel environment. You love consuming weed somewhere new. Question 3. How do you typically choose your cannabis products? A, based on what feels gentle and supportive. B, based on what fits my usual routine. C, based on the inner state I want to explore. D, based on what matches my creative task. E, based on what works well with social situations. F, based on curiosity. I like trying new things. Question 4. What is your relationship with dosage? A, I stay low because I want subtle, soothing effects. B, I use the same dose consistently. C, I let intuition guide the dose. D, I adjust based on the project or phase I'm in. E, I dose lightly to stay socially open and present. Or F, I increase or experiment depending on the experience I'm looking for. Question 5. When cannabis works exactly right for you, what happens? A, my body releases tension and I finally exhale. B, my system shifts smoothly into the next phase of my day. C, my inner world opens and becomes vivid. D, ideas connect and creativity accelerates. C, I feel warm, open, and connected. Or F, my senses expand and everything becomes more interesting. Question 6. What is the biggest benefit cannabis gives you? A, relief and recovery. B, stability and regulation. C, insight and inner clarity. D, creative expansion. E, emotional openness and bonding. Or F, novelty and exploration. Question 7. What is the most common trap you fall into with cannabis? A, using it to soothe before I understand what's wrong. B, relying on routine instead of reassessing. C, mistaking intensity for truth. D, generating ideas with no follow through. E, needing it to feel socially comfortable. Or F, chasing bigger or newer experiences. Question 8. How do you feel about trying new products or consumption methods? A, only if they support my well-being. B, only if they fit my existing structure. C, only if they feel aligned with my inner state. D, I'll try it if it might support my creativity. E, I'll try it if it enhances connection. Or F, I actively seek out new things. Question 9. What part of the cannabis experience do you value the most? A, the relief afterward. B, the predictability of how it helps me function. C, the shift into a deeper or more intuitive state. D, the spark that opens creative pathways. E, the warmth and closeness with others. Or F, the altered perception and sensory change. Finally, we have question 10. When you reflect on your cannabis use, which statement resonates the most? A, it helps me heal. B, it helps me stay regulated. C, it helps me understand myself. D, it helps me create. E, it helps me connect. Or F, it helps me explore. Now we've reached the point of the quiz where you're going to tally up all of your results. So add everything up, how many A's, B's, C's, D's, E's, and F's you have, and take a look at the numbers. If there's one really main standout, that's probably your main archetype. If you have 2 or 3 that are pretty close, then you probably switch depending on the situation or what it is that you're using it for. So go ahead and watch those chapters as well to get the tips and tricks for each of them. And don't worry about writing down all of this info because I have created a free guide to all 6 intentional consumer archetypes, which you can download from the link in the description and review it at your leisure. If you got mostly A's, then your archetype is the healer. If your archetype is the healer, you use cannabis to reduce strain in your whole system. You reach for it when something hurts or tightens or overwhelms you. And that's totally valid. Your nervous system is speaking and you've learned how to use cannabis to answer. Now, your strength is your sensitivity. You actually notice what's happening in your body. Most people, myself included, often power through until something breaks, but you don't. You notice and you respond early. But this archetype also has a shadow side. Cannabis can become the first tool instead of the most supportive one. When discomfort shows up, you soothe instead of understanding it. And the more automatic that pattern becomes, the harder it can be to know what your body is genuinely asking for. So your work is to find clarity. You become more intentional when you slow down long enough to separate the root from the symptom. Replace automatic use with conscious choice. Build 2 non-cannabis calming practices, right? Meditation, journaling, yoga, stretching, breath work. Rotate them and keep cannabis as the layer that helps you integrate, not the crutch that you lean on every time you need relief. Now, if this is your archetype, your power is your capacity for repair. Just make sure that you're healing and not hiding. Now, here's a next intentional step that you can take. Choose one emotion or one symptom that you usually medicate with cannabis and build one non-cannabis tool that addresses it directly. Here's a journal prompt that you can use to think through this question. What discomfort do I treat before I try to understand it? And here's a practice that you can put into place. 1 week of pausing before you consume, identifying what it is that you're consuming for, and then deciding if you're going to use cannabis or your non-cannabis tool before using cannabis for relief. Well, that brings us to the end of the healer archetype. And don't forget, there's a free guide to all 6 intentional archetypes that you can download from the link in the description of this video. Go ahead and watch the other descriptions if you feel so called to, and otherwise, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you got mostly B's, then your archetype is the regulator. Now, if you're the regulator, you're using cannabis to maintain order in your system. You like things to be steady, predictable, functional. Cannabis is your transition tool. It often marks the shift from work time to rest time, or from tension to release, or stimulation to quiet. Your strength is discipline. You understand dosage and timing and consistency better than most users. Routines probably work really well for you. You know what your body responds to, and so you build structures that support your day. But your shadow can be dependency disguised as discipline. Like when the ritual becomes so familiar that you stop questioning or making sure that it's even working. You might increase your dose without noticing. You keep the same product long after it stops doing what it used to do. You think you're maintaining balance, but you might actually be propping it up. Your work is going to be in auditing your habits, right? You want to insert small cannabis-free windows into your life. Reassess your sleep. Swap products instead of increasing your dose. Anchor your sessions to specific actions, not feelings, so that you maintain conscious control over the pattern. Now, if this is your archetype, your power is in consistency. Just make sure that the routine serves you and you're not serving it. The next intentional step that you can take is to set 1 weekly cannabis-free micro window, right? Even 12 hours counts here. You could also ask yourself this question: is my routine still serving me, or am I serving the routine? And in practice, this is going to look like swapping out one of your regular products for something maybe with a different terpene profile or cannabinoid profile instead of increasing your dose. Well, that brings us to the end of the regulator archetype. And don't forget, there's a free guide to all 6 intentional archetypes that you can download from the link in the description of this video. Go ahead and watch the other descriptions if you feel called to, and otherwise, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. If you got mostly C's, then your archetype is the mystic. If your archetype is the mystic, you often use cannabis to access the inner layers of yourself. Your intuition, symbolism, meaning, sensation, spirit, memory, or the unseen. Cannabis really opens doors for you. It's a portal. Now, your strength lies in your depth. You can track emotional patterns that most people completely miss. You sense those internal shifts before they become problems. And you see connections where other people just see coincidences. Your mind and your intuition speak to each other fluidly. But it comes with a shadow side too, and that shadow can be bypassing, right? You can mistake intensity for truth, and you can confuse emotional activation for spiritual insight. People who fit this archetype can sometimes use cannabis to avoid the grounded work by reaching for weed to help them get another download instead of actually integrating the last one into their life. And if you're not careful, you start believing that every sensation is a message from your higher self or from something outside of you. Now, the work that you need to do here is integration, right? Set your intention before you consume, never afterwards. Review your insights sober. Once you've had your experience, wait until you're sober and then review those insights so that you can integrate them into your life. Pair your cannabis sessions with grounding practices so that you know where intuition ends and actual amplification begins. Now, if this is your archetype, your power lies in your ability to access your inner world. Just make sure that you don't also lose your footing in the outer one. Now, for a next intentional step for you, you can do one cannabis-assisted session this week where you write down the intention for that session before you consume the weed. And ask yourself this integration question afterwards when you're sober. What message did I assume was guidance that was actually just amplification from the weed? Sometimes we get messages and they're not real messages. So it's important to examine that later on when you're not consuming weed so that you can integrate it into your life. And the practice for you is going to be this. After every session, write 3 sentences while you're sober. You can either keep or discard those insights based on the clarity that you feel afterwards, not the intensity that you felt during the experience. That brings us to the end of the Mystic Archetype. And don't forget, there's a free guide to all 6 intentional archetypes that you can download from the link in the description of this video. Go ahead and watch the other descriptions if you feel so called to. And otherwise, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. If you got mostly D's, then your archetype is the creator. If you're the creator, you use cannabis to break open the usual patterns. You often use it to generate ideas or shift your perspective or deepen your imagination and enter the flow state. Now, your strength lies in your originality. You often see what others miss. Cannabis can sharpen your sensory world so that you make those connections faster and imagine bigger. Right? You don't just create, you discover new worlds. But every archetype comes with a shadow, and your shadow is fragmentation. You often generate more ideas than you can actually execute. You confuse stimulation with productivity, and you rely on cannabis to unlock your creativity instead of treating it as one tool inside a much larger process. And sometimes unfinished projects can stack up behind you. Now, your work lies in creating structure. You want to separate your sessions into generate ideas and execute ideas. Review all of the ideas that you generate while you're sober and only keep the ones that actually hold up. Stop using high doses for tasks that require accuracy and build a workflow that doesn't depend on altered states. If this is your archetype, then your power lies in your vision. Just make sure that the work makes it out of your head and into the real world. So your next intentional step is going to be this. Divide your next session. The first half is going to be idea generation, and the second half is going to be reviewing and refining while sober, right? So use the time when you're consuming and you're feeling altered to generate ideas, and then afterward, once you're sober, or maybe later if you're feeling a little burnt out as a result, review and refine those ideas and see which ones you actually want to execute. And check in with yourself. Ask the question, which of my ideas hold up outside the high? In practice, you want to limit high-dose sessions to creation, not execution, right? Build a workflow that works with or without weed. And that brings us to the end of the Creator arc. And don't forget, there's a free guide to all 6 intentional archetypes that you can download from the link in the description of this video. Go ahead and watch the other descriptions if you feel so called to. And otherwise, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you got mostly E's, then your archetype is the connector. If the connector is your archetype, then you probably use cannabis to enhance relationships. That could be friendships or intimate relationships. You use it to enhance closeness and softness and for laughter and for bonding. Your strength lies in emotional intelligence. You really know how to create warmth. You notice the micro shifts between you and other people. And cannabis enhances your ability to open up and bring others into that space with you. But every archetype comes with a shadow, and your shadow can be reliance. Cannabis can start to become social armor, right? And you start believing that you're more lovable, more open, more interesting, or more relaxed only when you're high. You start to lose access to authentic connection without the substance as a buffer. Now, your work lies in clarity. Practice connecting without cannabis at least part of the time. And set boundaries before you consume. Replace "we always get high together" with other shared activities, or with touch, or with conversation that doesn't require a chemical bridge. Now, if this is your archetype, your power lies in your heart. Just make sure that the closeness is real, not something that you only access when you add THC. Your next intentional step is going to be to plan one hangout or intimate moment this week without cannabis. Think about what else you can do and how you can have a great time with that person without bringing weed into it. In practice, this can look like replacing one shared consumption ritual with a shared activity that builds connection on its own. And that brings us to the end of the connector archetype. And don't forget, there's a free guide to all 6 intentional archetypes that you can download from the link in the description of this video. Go ahead and watch the other descriptions if you feel called to. And otherwise, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you got mostly F's, then your archetype is the explorer. Now, if you're the explorer archetype, cannabis is not just a plant, it's a portal. You use it to change your perception and explore new states, push boundaries, and unlock different sensory layers. Your strength lies in your curiosity. You are open-minded, and you love to try new things, you learn quickly, and you embrace the unknown. You definitely don't stagnate. You evolve. But that comes with a shadow side, and your shadow is escalation. You chase intensity instead of insight. You push limits without integrating what you've already discovered. Your tolerance grows, your sessions get bigger, and novelty becomes the goal instead of the teacher. Now, your work lies in building restraint. Set the intention before you consume. Cap your peak sessions with firm limits. Write sober reflections after intense experiences so the learning sticks. You also want to rotate products to prevent dose creep. Now, if this is your archetype, your power lies in expansion. But just make sure that you're not exploring without awareness. You're not running away from something that you refuse to face. Now, your next intentional step is this. Before your next session, write one clear intention. And then after your session, write one grounded reflection while you're sober. And you can use this question to distill that experience down into one idea. Ask yourself, what did I learn? Not just what did I feel? Now, in practice, this could look like setting a cap for high intensity sessions. If you normally go big, instead go half and observe what shifts. See how things change for you. This brings us to the end of the Explorer archetype. And don't forget, there's a free guide to all 6 intentional archetypes that you can download from the link in the description of this video. So go ahead and watch the other descriptions if you feel called to. And otherwise, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.